Awesome. Well, Alexis, thanks for joining us tonight. Excited to have you on and to hear more about your work and just, yeah, your process as a DP and cinematographer. And I know a lot of the Growth and Co members were excited to see you being able to join us. So, yeah, maybe give us just a little backstory to how you came up. I mean, you and I met for the first time like a month ago. We're kind of
Yeah.
neighbors here in Venice. Kids at the park nearby, so it's fun to meet another DP in the area. But yeah, maybe start with just some of your background and how you came up.
Thanks for having me here, man. It's fun. It's good. Um, and I don't know. I mean, you just kind of keep on walking. At the end of the day, it's not you never feel you're going up or down or anywhere. You just kind of follow the path, and after a while, the more you walk it, the I guess the you get to farther places. But it feels more like that than actually going. It just feels like a long, or maybe not that long, but just of doing it, day by day, and then
Totally.
things start adding up, and then after once, at some point you look back and you're like, oh, I kind of built something here, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. Maybe talk about like when did you first get into filmmaking or just image making in general, stills like as a kid
Yeah.
or growing
My,
up?
my, yeah, my dad was a photographer, so he used to do a lot of tabletop work and architectural work. He used to shoot a lot of pre-Hispanic uh, architecture and pieces, ceramics and stones, and do books for museums and things like that. So I kind of always grew up around that world. And then when I went to film school, I just gravitated, towards the camera, and it kind of suits my temper, I guess.
Totally.
There's a certain way, about everything you do within a film, and DP work kind of um, requires certain, I guess, certain qualities to be able to, yeah,
Yeah,
get
no, I
in.
love that. Where did you go to film school?
I went to school in Mexico City,
Okay,
and yeah, and part of the UNAM, which is kind of like the big public university there,
sure.
and yeah, it was a good experience back when there was almost no film in Mexico, going up in film school, and I guess maybe we were like in second year, and the industry just disintegrated from one day to the other.
Hmm.
So it was an interesting time, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of our members either are in film school right now or recently have come out of film school. Like any advice or thoughts you have, for them as they're in classes and studying. I know a lot of people have a similar feeling of like, oh, how can I just like go shoot more? Or how can I be on set more?
Mhm.
Sometimes there's frustration there, but obviously there's a lot of great things
Yeah.
to learn as well. Like, what would your advice be for them?
I mean, just hang in there. At the end of the day, it's like you just gotta hang in there. Um, no, and sometimes, yeah, it requires more than a lot of your life. I've I've
Sure.
I've, I've also gone through many phases. I've stopped at some points. I took a year off and just
Hmm.
traveled, did other things. I don't know, studied other things. That's kind of a good thing to do, also to do other things other than DPing. It's good to
Totally.
have, yeah, a couple of
Love
things
it.
to do, yeah, to get you out of set, because set is so much fun at the end of the day. It is really such a good time to shoot a movie.
It's awesome.
um so I don't know, yeah, I think it's just hang in there. I mean, all I've ever done is just kind of try to be true to what I feel like doing, and learn new things, and I don't know, I don't think there's any other way.
No, it's
Honestly.
great for
Yeah.
sure. That's awesome. That's awesome. Um, so tell us, a couple of people were asking, Matt and Nick was kind of asking this too, like, what was the transition like and where were you in your career when did you come from Mexico to LA or to the States? What was that
I came
like?
from Yeah, I came from Mexico to the US. I pretty
Hmm.
much worked most of my career, I guess two-thirds of it are um or a little bit more maybe in Mexico. And it's a great place, you know. It's a really beautiful country, and there's a lot to do and a lot to see, and a lot of stories to tell. Um it's and it's huge also, you know. You could spend, but then I don't know, I guess at some point also the situation got a little bit rough down there, and then you get new horizons, and it's always a little bit the same, I think. I mean, I feel that part of being a DP has some kind of a way of, you have to be able to to go from one reality to another one with quite a lot of ease, you know.
Mm.
Because every time you go from one project to another, they can be very different, you know, and they can take you to so many different places. So it requires some kind of flexibility of sorts, you know. Um, so so yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how long have you been in the States now? Like when did you make the
It's
move?
about 8 years, or almost 8 years, 7.5 years.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
and it was also kind of, you know, things were kind of getting rough a little bit in Mexico, and we I had just gotten married, and we were talking about maybe, you know, if things kept on going the same direction, of taking a break, and that it sort of
Hmm.
coincided with work starting to happen here, and little by little, you know, I started to come, you know, for a couple of weeks at a time, do a couple of jobs, go back to Mexico, and kind of transitioned for about almost a year maybe, and then after a
Sure.
while, with, you know, just kind of, I really like this, I really like this city. LA is a really good town,
Yeah.
and it has a lot of what I liked about, you know, I lived in Mexico City for a while, then moved to the Yucatan, and before living here I lived in Yucatan, or I lived in a little town called Tepoztlan, so kind of more small town living.
Mm.
And I find that LA has that. It's really not a big city, it's like a collection of small towns, you know. So it was
Awesome.
really kind of an easy, it was very a very easy transition, you know.
Yeah. And then a lot of our conversations at different points talk about representation and agents and that whole world. What was that like for you when you were moving? Did you already have an agent, or did that help you kind of get more work in LA?
I did. I've had an agent for a long, long time, because agents are really,
Hmm.
you know, they're really good at you know, connecting with people, um and you know, but nothing really came out of it for many years, actually. You know, when I did a the first feature I did was called Duck Season, and it would had, you know, it was what you know, had moderate, um I guess, like, success at the time. So it went around a few festivals and stuff, and so I got an agent right after that. And
Sure.
for a while, it was just, you know, we talk every few months, and hey, what's up? What's going on? You know, but I'm in Mexico. You know, maybe I read a couple of, you know, I don't know, I did a couple of interviews, things like that, but nothing really much came of it. You know, until a few years later.
Mm.
And it's somehow, you know, it's not just the agent, especially coming from another country. It has also to do with the work that you do, and so you really kind of have to, um start building the relationships, and, you know, one thing leads to another. You know, that's what I guess what I meant, you know, when it's a path at the end of the day, you know. So,
Totally.
um yeah, you know, maybe after I did Silent Light, that kind of was a little bit, that was interesting, you know. I started working in the US a little bit with Harmony Korine after that movie.
Mm.
He really liked that,
Yeah.
and then that also, you know, brought, you know, took me to another place, and so on and so on, until, you know, until suddenly I'm in LA and I have a career here as well.
Yeah.
um yeah, you
It's
know.
awesome. Very cool. Okay,
It is.
so one thing we also talk a lot about with different people we interview and just as a group is kind of with where you are at in your career at this point. Like, how do you decide what type of jobs you do take, knowing that you do have kind of offers both on narrative and commercial coming in at different points? And then once you do kind of commit and say, "Cool, I am going to do this job," like what does that process look like for you in terms of committing to and then kind of moving into a new
Yeah,
project?
I mean, it's some, you know, things like feature work that require so much energy and so much time and passion to complete. I tend to be a little bit more, um like really, I don't know what the it really has to resonate within me to, and not only resonate and be a project that I want to do, but it also has to be harmonious in my life to go and do it
Mm,
for some reason, because I found that the first movies I did created a lot of chaos, in my life, and
mm,
so lately I'm trying to make things, you know, kind of run smooth, smoother on that front. I think, I don't know, when you start working, you kind of don't give a shit about anything, and you just want to work, you know.
yep, yep.
But after a while, I tend to, I don't know, I tend to value life a lot as well, and I've always kind of throughout my career, I've done sometimes, I don't know. I did a lot of yoga, and I really liked it. So I went to India, lived there for a year,
Mm,
did something else, kind of like really immerse myself in that. I spent a lot of time in South America as well, just traveling Peru and like researching other things that,
I love that.
that I found that it's kind of, has always been very helpful to kind of, grow as a person. And then that way you can
Mm,
also have different types of projects come to you as well, and resonate with projects at different levels. So I guess the more experience you gather in life, the more you can understand and that helps you choose in a way a little bit more how,
totally.
and I think I worked a lot, like really, really hard when I was still in film school, and the first like 5 years. I talked about this kind of big economic crisis that happened back then, and
Mm,
that destroyed the Mexican film industry. And so it destroyed the industry and then the economy. So a lot of the DPs, or most of the DPs that already, they left, and they either went to Europe or came up to the US or back
mm,
to South America, because it was getting very rough. And so for my generation, was almost like suddenly there was a void and they needed DPs, and so it was like, okay, perfect. So basically, you know, we all kind of made it up very fast. I'd been, you know, doing assistant camera work for a couple of years, and then suddenly you're kind of like thrust in there.
sure.
I can't remember where exactly I'm going with this, but
No, I mean, no, there's so much there. Just for
yeah,
like the context and history, when was that like Mexican like
that was
economic?
like in the mid to late 90s or something like
Okay,
that. Yeah.
sure.
So around the mid 90s, the economy just, completely was destroyed, and that, people were committing suicide.
Yeah,
It was kind of a rough couple
yeah,
of years.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about features and trying to find ones that fit kind of within your life and your world, and talking about earlier ones that were more chaos, there are a lot of stories, and even Matt, I know he's on here, has a feature or two story that haven't all gone well, and I mean, plenty of people in the group. Like, talk more about that in terms of what you look for in projects, whether it's like the people, maybe the budget or location. I mean, there's so many elements. Like, what are some of the big pieces you look for something that would be a
I
good
mean,
fit?
because it has to be a story that I want to tell as well, like so that's like really, I have to read the script, and really, really understand it, love it, because
Mm,
at the end of the day, you're kind of gonna have to either, you have to understand what you're trying to say, in a way. It has
sure.
to really resonate within you. If it doesn't, then I think it just makes your job, 3 times as hard, you
Mm,
know? And so um I don't know, like before, for example, the first feature I did was Duck Season. I did that with a friend from film school, and I had a few offers for other features prior to that, but it just never really made sense to go and leave my life for so long for something that I wasn't really, so until,
mm,
this my friend calls me up and says, hey, we've got some money, let's do a feature. That was one. Oh yeah, that it all made sense, and the script was beautiful, and and you just go do it, you know
nice.
yeah. And then I think that's it basically. You just really, really want to, you know um you, let's see. So it's kind of like your intuition in a way. You hear a voice that said like or and so that's
Mm,
kind of easy. You just have to learn to listen to that, and I don't
mm,
always, I've learned the hard way that sometimes I don't listen to it, and I do it anyway, and then it's just a harder path, you know, when that happens, everything's way harder, you know.
So good. No, I love that. And I
Mhm.
feel like that's not really talked about a ton. I think we all kind of go through those jobs and times and maybe just kind of, get through it and are like, shit, like I made it through, but to
Yeah,
like reflect on
exactly.
it and think about like, cool, how can that flow into, the yeses and nos in the future? I think that's
Yeah,
huge.
yeah. And I don't know if I've been very lucky. I feel that I've done few features. I haven't done that many. You know, I do one maybe every couple of years or so.
Mm,
But you know, most of the ones I've done, you know, there's a few exceptions there, but most of the ones I've done have always been really amazing experiences, and you know,
yeah,
I've been really happy with the end product as well. So it's, you know, it
totally.
I think when you do things from a real passion, it's just easy. That's it. It just makes it
Mm,
easy at the end of the
yeah.
day. Everything that I've done that is beautiful always, I find that it's always easier. You know, the
Mm.
harder things are the ones that are like, you know, yeah.
Oh, that's so good. All right, so let's talk about one of your features, the Florida project,
Hmm.
because it's definitely the one that I knew the best and loved when I saw it a couple years ago. Whenever it came out, was it maybe 18 or 17, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, we shot it at 16 and it came out 17.
Okay, yep.
Exactly.
So yeah, I mean, talk a little bit about that project. I know Kelsey was asking about your approach in shooting with kids and kind of
Mhm.
first time non actors.
Yeah.
Um, and I know that project had mostly, kind of first time actors, and then obviously the like group of kids running around.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
curious what that was like for you.
And you know, that was like also an easy project to get into. At the end of the day, it was just the way I met Sean, and the way, you know, we did a short film before that, and it was really like a great experience. So we, you know, we got into this one. And a lot of the films I've done, or most of them, have always been with non-actors, and I've done a few. The first film I was telling you about, Duck Season, that was, you know, with a
Mhm.
bunch of kids, also a little older, you know, maybe like
Yeah.
11, 12.
Mm.
Um, but still, you know, and also non-actors. So I don't know, I guess I've got a little bit used to it. And the Florida project, I think at the end of the day, what was really magical about the film was just the way it was really a very flowy creative process, you know.
Mm.
It seemed it was impossible to start with. um, um, the schedule is for like 60 days and we have 30 to shoot it, you
Mm.
know. And
Yeah.
but it was in but it was a but it was the way we started shooting and the way things started to be taken out of the story. You know, Sean was pretty good at that, at understanding as the film starts. You know, he suddenly understands what the film is really about. So like
Mm.
at day 4, you know, he came up to me and said, hey, we need to, you know, lose this and lose that and lose that. And then, you know, little by little we lost those 30 days of schedule that we were over scheduled, and we just shot the real basic essence of the film, you know.
Mm.
And that's it. And we ended up, you know, with you know, we finished on schedule with a film, which was pretty, yeah. So, and the whole process was like that, was just like a really good flow, you know,
Mm.
with the kids. With, you know, there were moments obviously when, you know, I think like a couple of times I almost lost it with them, because sometimes it would be just, you know, insanity for hours and hours and hours. They have a lot of energy, you know.
Yeah.
They're just around the camera all day, but it was like, you know, mostly fun.
Yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, because I haven't seen it in a couple years, but I definitely remember, yeah, the like real kid moments, which
Yeah.
aren't easy, especially,
Uh-huh.
with, I mean, even if they're kid actors, to find real moments is hard, but
Yeah.
like with real
Uh-huh.
kids, and I have kids,
Yeah.
you have kids,
No, yeah.
um, like, yeah, talk more about like how you guys flowed with that. And even did you have like shot list ideas, and then you also were flowing with like the
Yeah, no,
scene as
we
a
would
whole?
yeah, no, we would meet up like a half an hour before starting the day, and I
Okay.
didn't even know what we were going to shoot most of the time on the
Yeah.
following day, you know. Maybe, or maybe I'd know like just, you know, in the afternoon, one day prior to shooting, we'd know what we were going to shoot the next day. And
Mm,
and then we'd kind of have little bit of a huddle for about 30 minutes in the morning with coffee, and then go over the scenes and kind of say, we can do this way, let's do this handheld, you know, kind of figure out a game plan for the day.
yeah.
And and then follow it, you know. And sometimes I think, you know, we just went a little bit too much into too much coverage. You know, we did kind
Okay.
of hustle along. It was a bit of a hustle, and sometimes we overshot things a little bit, I feel. But in
Mm.
general, it was really, you know, pretty like a really good jam session. I don't know, it was just very flowy. You know, you meet up in the morning, decide how you're going to do things, do them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talk about lighting, knowing that you know, didn't have a lot planned going into a day, or you were kind of figuring it out as you went. Like,
Yeah.
what was that like for you? I mean, I'm
I
guessing like,
mean, you know, I mean, obviously we had like a lot of ideas prior to that. Like we knew, you know, we'd done a lot of tests on color palettes,
mm,
on 30, we shot at 35, but we
okay,
did tests like night tests on 35, 35 sucks. So we shot digital for night, you know,
yeah,
so there was a whole process to kind of understand basically overall how the film would look. You know, there was some filtration as well. I used this enhancing filter on it, which is a really weird, interesting filter that kind of doesn't work on all the light frequencies the same way.
okay,
It's made with some rare earth. It's a really funny filter. It even looks a different color depending under which light you look at it. So that gave it a lot of the what the greens are and what the skin tones are and how the way it reacts.
oh,
Like, there
interesting,
was a lot of purple in the movie, you
yeah,
know.
yeah,
So the way
yeah,
it reacts with the purple in a very particular way, and the way it really separates, um, you know, what happens in Florida as well. There's so much green bouncing back at you that there's this green thing that's almost
mm,
overwhelmingly always there. So with this filter, kind of got rid of the green, so it separated colors better. It made it more pastel-y, more uh,
yeah,
saturated, a little poppier. You know, that was pretty cool. And so, you know, and we knew certain things, like we knew, you know, there was bright light hitting the windows, and the rooms had to kind of feel a little darker and but cool at the same time.
sure,
We'd also kind of detest, you know, and, you know, for example, we realized when we shot 35 at night with dramatic lighting, it turned into a vampire film, and it wasn't really, you know. So we had an overall look idea of how we wanted to handle things, and then you just execute. You know, it doesn't. Um,
yeah,
you know, I didn't have too much. I work with very little because I like unclutteredness on set. I kind of like
mm,
to be able to be free to frame, you know, not be boning myself on one side or the other, you
mm,
know, because of things that I've got, you know, in frame. So I always work with minimal things, and I kind of, you know, when it's if you keep it simple, it's easy to just, you know, keep track of what you
mm,
need to do. There's not that many, you know, you have a few limited tools, so
yeah,
it's easy. You'll make decisions in a fast way, you know.
yeah, yeah. That's awesome.
Hmm.
And like, at what point in those 30 days or even after you had wrapped, did you like know you had something good, or you loved like what was going to
I
happen,
was
you know, in the edit? Like,
Yeah, I was seeing dailies every day. I was the only one seeing dailies, actually,
okay,
because Sean was always working on the script, so he really didn't have time.
yeah,
And I knew, like, after, well, the producers were seeing dailies also. So after a few days, you know it. After a few days of seeing you see
yeah,
dailies for a few days, and if you know if you have a film or if you don't have one,
mm,
really, you know. I
that's
think that, yeah, you kind
very
of know
cool.
it. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, feel free anyone to throw any other questions about, especially the Florida project.
Mhm.
I definitely want to go watch it again. I remember seeing, I mean, the kid and the mom alone, just their
They're great.
dynamic
They're
was,
great, and that's you know, that's really important. Sean's amazing in casting, and the way he found, you know, the way he found Bria, and he found
sure.
yeah, both Valerie and Brooklyn and Christopher. You know, and I was there for a lot of the casting was really hard on the kids. I was there for during prep for a long time,
Mm,
and you know, they really, you know, they started off with a lot of kids, maybe 40, you know, and slowly
yeah.
whittled down to those main three,
Hmm.
and the others found their other little, you know, places within the movie in
Sure.
different characters, you know, but they all made it in there, either, you know, as extras or background or whatever, but they,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's awesome. Very cool.
Yeah.
I know that's a super fun story and project. Okay, I want to hit a few of these that kind of will take us a little bit more into the kind of commercial music video world.
Question. Do you
Um,
mind if I ask a quick question about your
oh,
project
go for it.
before?
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
do it.
Hey, so I guess you mentioned some stuff earlier with like your process of films and how a lot of your filmmaking decisions really come from like it comes from the heart and it has to feel right for you and I guess within there because I've been shooting a feature on 16 recently and
Mm.
um I've been feeling a lot of these, it was just budget stuff and, you know, where things have to be and minimal lighting and stuff. And I find myself coming to this point a lot where I have to kind of quickly get to a decision point of like, where is like, where am I at? Where's the camera? Where's everything at that has to feel absolutely right? And I often find myself sometimes feeling like this overly strong sense of pressure that's sometimes clouding my judgment. And it sounds like you might like maybe it's with the collaborators you work with or the scripts that you work on that you or maybe you're pushing this yourself, this like openness and this free spiritedness that comes
Yeah.
into your films. And I guess I'm wondering like how do you find yourself reaching that like just mental clarity and balance a lot of moments? Because what I'm afraid of is reaching like a buyer's remorse or like a DP's remorse. Like, did I
Yeah.
make the right decision? Did I do it right? So
Yeah.
I'd
So
love
that's
to
the
know.
thing. You can't overthink it, you know, and you can't go back on it. You know, you just have to plow forward. That's the whole thing, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, what we do is basically we make decisions. That's all we're fucking doing for, you know, days and you know. And so yeah, I try not to, you know, I used to do that at first a little bit, but then it's like it's torture. So you just at some point you just have to stop. And once you finish your day, it's done, it's in the can. You know, just have to wait and see it in the dailies, and then maybe you can think about it then. And even I found that like, you know, 80% of the time, if I have little remorseful feelings after a shoot of one thing or another, at the end of the day, it's completely irrelevant. It doesn't really matter. Like sometimes you focus on things that are, so that's when you realize like distance is your ally. Like if you take a distance from the materials, so don't even think about it. I try never to think about it. Like if I finish my day and that's it, it's done. I don't go back on it, you know, except if I have some kind of lighting continuity, in which case, yeah, you know. But even then, you know, sometimes, or I might be in a situation like, oh, you know, damn, you know, you do sometimes end up in situations you pin yourself into corners sometimes, I guess, in but to a certain degree. At the end of the day, you know, it's also, you know, I feel that it's really important to understand and love all light, whether it's, you know, front lit, back lit, side lit, whatever, because then you make you really make the most out of any situation. So even if you pin yourself in a corner, you're in a situation that you know you can handle, you know, in a way. It's okay. I think that's really important as well, you know, to just really, there's no good light or no bad light, you know. It's all, it's at the end of the day, you really can make anything look good or interesting, you know, if you approach it in the right way, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah. The more that I've been thinking about it, it feels like a lot of like physical hurdles that we go through on set
yeah,
like become a lot more clear when you remove like the mental hurdles. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Like
yeah,
when you really start to pull it back. Because
yeah.
sometimes we end up being kind of our own biggest like obstacles sometimes. And
Obstacles, yeah.
that's something I've been thinking about a lot. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like also, you know, I find that it's also important to you know, when you're working with a director or any of the collaborators, you know, that you really sometimes listen to what they're saying, and you know, and maybe, you know, some of you might think of something in a certain way, and the director thinks of it completely the other way, you know, and then it's kind of like, oh, let me, you know, you really have to force yourself to look at everything, you know, and see where you can get that, oh yeah, that feels good feeling, you know. Because sometimes it's, you know, you just didn't see it, somebody else, you know, it's, and we're collaborating on this, so it's really about trying to really, you know, look at things and feel what you're looking at, and just, you know, what's not think about it, really just, I don't know, just be there and feel it, you know, and if it feels right or it doesn't, you know, and then you can tweak along to see if it feels better, and if you can make it feel better, then it's always good, and if you, and even if you can't, you know, with a little distance, you're like, oh, I wasn't seeing this, and it's actually really, it works because of this, you know, or it works because of that, you know, that, but you don't realize it in the moment. Yeah.
Totally. It's great. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Awesome. So talking more about collaborators and especially directors, a couple of people were talking about the F-150 spot with Malik. I mean, just kind of as a whole, I mean, you've worked with a lot of directors, you've worked with a lot of very accomplished directors who, you know, have, you know, huge careers and large portfolios. Like, talk about what some of your high level takeaways have been from working with people at that level, and then maybe touch on Malik in that project as well, because people were interested in that.
I think it's all, it's about learning and what can, and we're all teaching each other things, in life, but it's really important to understand that, so with every director I work with, I learn so much, and then you bring more to the next project and more to the next, Malik, for example, what's amazing is just his way, like that he's the least scripted of any director I've ever worked with. Like, he's really about things happening and just being there with a wide enough net to capture those things as they happen, And so it's 12 millimeters, full T-stop 6, everything in, T-stop 16,
yeah,
wide angle lenses, catch everything, or Carlos, for example, who I really also admire as a director, and he's also really, the way he can sometimes, I don't know, where we're talking, he's very precise. He has everything storyboarded, at the beginning, and he's very good at storyboarding. He's really, really good. And then, during the process, some things change and whatever, but it stays, which is the complete opposite, it's also really nice. You're just like, talk about, and you're talking about it in this shot and in this shot, and you're like, oh, that's nice. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
So I think it really is about, just learning and seeing what everybody brings to the table, especially these guys who have made these amazing, films. I mean, you just got to learn. That's all. Like, Master Jedi. So, you have to,
yeah. That's awesome. Okay. So, it's funny because when we met and I started looking up your work, your WSL Samsung spot, like, to be honest, like, has been one of my top commercial spots to reference since it came out. And and then seeing that you shot it, I was like, holy shit. Like, I love Elliot Rauch. I mean, he's incredible. But and it seems like, from what I've heard, like, I know Ryan Booth has shot for him and they've had a collaboration. He's talked a lot about his process as well. Seems kind of towards Malik in some ways, of feeling things, finding real moments, creating real moments. Like, talk about that project, because not only did it seem like you were for sure all over the world, but
that project was amazing. And also, I'd also just gotten into LA. I've been kite surfing for a long time, for like 25 years or something, and I just got into LA and had been surfing for a couple of years, and suddenly I got called on this. So it was really like total immersion in the culture, and it was pretty cool. And we had like really, like just funny moments, and within, we shot in Fiji where they were having the WSL tour. We shot here in LA. I think that's it, Fiji and LA.
Okay.
And the rest, there's stock footage in there as well. There's that, I don't know, that ship and this giant wave,
Oh, sure.
That's like, I don't know, whatever stock footage is there, like within the surfing community culture, those are like classic, those are scenes that they know, and they know, that, where it's from and when it happened. And the same with a surfer who's who has a physical incapacity or handicap. He's very famous, and it's very famous footage from that. So there's a couple of images down there, but yeah, that was beautiful, and that was a really nice project to do. And I really liked this first shot that this first shot was something
the wave shot.
And I've been wanting to do it, because we're always shooting the surf from in front, but nobody. So
totally.
I really want to come in with a wave, like follow. So it's hard when to, because you have the drone. We had the drone out there, and it was pretty windy and gnarly, and I'm trying to, it was hard to. That was a really hard one to get, but that was that's one of my favorite. I love
it's a gorgeous shot. Yeah, and then, I mean, like, one of the other moments that always hit me too is the sound design. It's Elliot too, like his edits, the flow of all of them are, it's insane. But the like kind of fascist moment where it's, like he smashes the windshield, and then it's like there's like the bleep that like drops the music. I mean, some of those moments were, how boarded was that then, knowing like it's a branded spot for Samsung, but also
no,
Elliot's?
not boarded really. We knew what the
Yeah.
vignettes were, and then we found them. It was very flowy as well. We just knew what the moments
Wow.
were, but there was a lot of finding things. That's really nice about these commercials. You have time, so you just, you can be there for 45 minutes shooting a certain scene,
Yep.
and really, and you're looking for, these 10 seconds or whatever,
Yeah.
maybe more than that, 5 seconds. And honest, that's also that spot was really, the creatives were also really, like, really good. It was a really tight collaboration, like, between between us all. It was really nice. Yeah. And because it was such a long job, we were there for a couple of weeks to shoot that, so you get to know each other.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the final product definitely shows, like,
Yeah.
the creative, like, collaboration and resonance.
Yeah, no, that was a very, very, very in the flow project to be able to
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, let me look at a couple of these other questions here. Can we talk about joining the ASC and what that was like, and even, I mean, how long ago did you get added or joined?
Probably about 4 years ago or so, something like that. 4 years ago.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, three members have to nominate you, and then once you do that, then you kind of go and you talk you show your work and you talk about your work, and if and you're there with 20 years, and they just they just, I guess, I don't know, then if they like your spiel and if you have something to add, I guess, to the conversation, they feel you have something to add to the conversation, then it's like, yeah, welcome and join the conversation, I guess, and I think it's nice. It's nice to go and hang out with with your colleagues. I mean, it's also for many years, like, I didn't even know any other DPs other than a couple of my film school buddies, or or a couple, just a couple that you might make friends with in life, but not too many. You never work together, so suddenly it's kind of nice to be able to go to a place and just talk to your peers, and we're all in this together, and realize also, like, how, I mean, that's like biggest lesson learned. It's interesting, and I've done a lot of the ASC mentorship programs, and I talk with some of the younger DPs, and they're, they have a lot. There's always, man, I mean, it's a fucking stressful job, I mean, there's a lot of, emotional work to do, when
totally,
like, throughout so it's really nice to suddenly hang out, like now, you hang out with your peers, and we all relate, to what we're all saying here, because we do the same. So it's nice to have this place. Unfortunately, we have COVID for so long, but usually you can go there to the clubhouse, and there's a couple of guys hanging out there, and there are these guys that I don't know, I grew up watching films, and a lot of the masters are there. It's really nice to meet them, and yeah.
That's
It's funny, but at the end of the day, you realize, I think, we're all kind of going through the same thing, no matter whether you're Chivo, or it doesn't matter. We're all going through the same, we're all going through the same things at all the time, and we all have a hard time choosing projects. We all suffer, we go through the same things. And you just got to get used to it. That's all. I guess. Not get hung up on anything, and just plow through, man. And do it with a I feel that that's kind of this, just do it with love, and be sensitive to beauty, and just when you need it, and when you don't need it, be sensitive to that too. We're really free. We can do a lot of things. You can do things that are not necessarily well lit, and and be that the most powerful moment of the film, because of everything else that's going on with it, so yeah, I try to take it to not overthink it too much, and always kind of have a good idea of what you want to do, and then have to be very open to, that's the thing, you plan a lot, and it happened in the last feature that I did, and and we had a lot of pre-pro because it was VFX heavy and la la la. And I spoke to the director a lot. I said, listen, we could we can look at this storyboard all, for another 10 months if you want, but on the day, when you're there and the actors are moving, and if they're allowed a certain amount of freedom to, which they should be, so they're going to stand somewhere that you don't necessarily, have lit or have that perfect lighting moment there or not. You could, you can, so you don't know what's going to happen. So you have to be open to, you have to be able to react quickly to things and try to just push them a little bit in the right direction. Like kite surfing, for example, taught me a lot about photography in that way, that even you want to go someplace, it's not necessarily a straight line, and you're working with all these energies. You've got the, damn, you're working with the, the fucking weather, which is like the most unpredictable thing ever. So, you have to be able to kind of go through all that and not have a nervous breakdown at any point, and all of
That's
that
awesome.
Stuff, clouds are, so try to be as flexible as possible and just and be ready for that, for whatever.
I want to come back to some of that for sure, but I'm curious, going back to ASC for a minute, like who is like your biggest idol who you actually like ended up meeting? Like was there one or two people that you're like,
get into that? No. There's, I can't say who's like there's so many good films, how many, there's hundreds of people are going to say, oh, brilliant to meet you, man. I love that film, how there's thousands of amazing films, man. So thousands of amazing people,
That's cool. What about was there anything that like surprised you in terms of like those conversations that you would be in, just kind of going there and hanging out?
I mean, you kind of, especially I think the way you handle your other life, your family life, a lot of that happens there, which is interesting. Like, like kind of knowing what others have experienced and what the result is of that experience, or in your own personal life, I guess. I don't, sometimes you hear a little, I've never gotten to like any kind of geeky technical talk over there too much, honestly. It's been more about life experiences, and or how you're basically. But also there's been COVID, for like the last 3 years, so we're getting into the third year, so half the time I've been in the ASC, we've been in lockdown and Zoom meetings, man, for
it's so different.
Totally. It's very different, man. It's a new world. It's crazy.
But no, so going back to like, flowing with it, the stress of the job, the kind of the career, I mean, the schedule, the travel, like there's so many elements to it in that way too. Like talk about maybe just, some of the things you've learned as you've, gotten further along, as you've gotten older, as you have, a family now as well. Wellness, and kind of just your mental health in general. Like what are some of the big pieces for you at this point? You mentioned yoga as well.
Yoga's always been a good one, man, because that's a savior for if you do a lot of handheld work, especially, it saves your back, and you learn how to feel your body as well, and you learn how to be, so any kind of physical work, I think, I had my cards read once by this like tarot lady, and she said, you need and I think she just said it, whatever, but it was good advice. She said you need 3 pillars in your life. You need the physical, the creative, and the spiritual, and I think you also kind of need that for doing cinematography, because I mean, where you're working with the weather, so you really have to become a little spiritual about it, or else
totally
beware of thunderous days. I don't know. But it's like it's interesting to kind of, you're working within, and it's like kite surfing or surfing, you're working with these forces that are beyond your control, so any illusion you might have of control can be completely blown away any second, whether you're surfing or whether you're shooting a movie. Any notion that you're in control of whatever is going on it's to a certain degree, obviously you know what lights you have and what camera and what lenses, and there's certain,
Sure.
but once you're in the process of shooting, you know, and the actors are moving and things are happening, then it's, and you know, it's, anything can happen, you know. So I find that it's good to be uncluttered on set, you know, pan the camera wherever you want to pan it. I'd rather do that than, you know, than have to really force myself into framing or things like that. And also I feel that it looks, at least in my, I always like to make things, I don't know if to look, not look real necessarily, but to look believable. If that, whatever it is, believable, whether it's, you know, whether it could be as fantastic, but do you feel it's like anchor, I don't know, that it has to have like a little bit of an anchor to reality somewhere, you know, like it has to touch the earth somewhere, I guess is what I'm saying. And I always find that the less I do, the more it's easier to do that. So that's also a good idea, to not light too much.
Yeah. That's cool. It's fun. Kind of a bridge from that. Like, do you like have certain people you read at this point, like in terms of kind of this thought process, this way of being? I mean, it's how you show up on set, but obviously, like, it's kind of your approach of life and family and relationships, and your relationship to yourself as well. Like, who are some of kind of the influences or people that you follow in that way?
I mean, it's always a bit random, but for example, I've never I did this job with a really nice director, commercial job, and we had a lot of conversations, and so he gave me a book at the end of of the project. I've got to find it, and it's actually, and I'm not going to remember the name right now.
Sure.
But it's about this guy who's looking for a teacher, and he finds this teacher, but the teacher is a gorilla. I think for some reason I heard it's very famous. I just never heard of it until now, but I heard that it's pretty. Yes, and I started reading that a few days ago.
Nice.
Yeah, and so it's kind of, it's whatever, you know. I don't know. I like to read anything. I think, you know, I think we're curious about life, right? I think that's important, to be curious about life. And I think if we're DPs, you're obviously very curious about life, because, you know, you're going to be crawling in gutters and, you know, going through things, and then going into favelas and whatever, you know, just going to take you anywhere. So you have to be very curious about life. And I always have been a little bit, you know, like, you know, like, what does it all mean, you know? So you find also through my camera work, you know, I've been able to get into those situations, you know, with doing certain documentaries, or so, where I can learn other, you know, other things, and kind of, and when I haven't been able to do it by work, then I've taken, you know, I've trips and just travel, just go somewhere and travel and be there for a while. And, you know, I was lucky when I could do it. Now it's not so easy, but yeah. Like I did India like that for a year. I did, you know, Peru for also for like 7 months. You know, different, I guess, different places. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's cool. The travel, that's huge. I mean, especially just other cultures too, like putting you out of your comfort zone, like out of your like default mode.
Yeah. And you learn a lot, man. You learn so much, you know.
Totally. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, cool. So maybe just kind of getting, because I always love like hearing people's, you know, story of like, and even like the past successes. Like I feel like that's always interesting, but I also find it interesting to like ask and talk about like your current process of like, even, I mean, you said you were shooting tomorrow, and like even this coming year of like what's coming up for you, or what are you looking forward to, like yeah, where are you at kind of in the present moment right now in terms of your thought process?
I finished this feature over the summer, and it was really hard. That, for example, I had that little voice that said at first. I did that for, I don't know, I did like my reasoning came in, my logic, and it was very logical. It was a very logical film to do, and I finished it, but it was a really painful process. Like it was hard all the way through, and so I came back, and I needed to shoot in like with like good energy for a while. So I worked a lot in really nice projects, which was nice, because I came back from this like 4 months of set hell, and then came back home and like started working with Terrence Malick, who's the most like gentle, you know, super like he's just such a great, like, I don't know, he really makes you be the best version. He helps you be the best version of yourself, you
It's
know.
amazing.
Sometimes when you're in these toxic sets where it's all like, so, you know, you end up being not the best version of yourself. And no matter how much, you know, you can, I woke up every morning like, okay, I'm gonna, you know, and then you get there and you're like nailed again by the bad vibes and juju, you know,
Sure.
floored after 20 minutes. You're like, fuck again. So then I got back and did that, but I worked a lot. So now I'm actually looking forward to like a little time off. And then maybe there's a few features that are kind of buzzing around, and I don't know which one I'm gonna do, or if, you know, whichever one happens. There's always that also the great mystery of, will it happen? Will it not happen? You know,
Sure.
is that ship gonna sail or is it not gonna sail? There's always a certain level of uncertainty. So I don't know. You know, when it's the same. It's almost like when it happens. You know, it's like, okay, this is, you know if you have to get on the ship or not. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's the thing, like, you know, at first you want to get on every ship, but then after a while you're like, ship, you know, then I'm gonna miss some other ships, you know, because that's the thing. It's like, if I've realized also, if you do a lot, then it's not so much about what you do, but it's about what you don't do, because you never know what that's gonna be, you know. So that's why, yeah.
Yeah. Are you still shooting music videos? Because you definitely have like a large
Yes,
portfolio of that work as
I
well.
really like to shoot music videos. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So free, and just, yeah, I think that's my favorite thing to shoot.
It's awesome.
Life, yeah. And it's quick and fun, and you work with it. Yeah.
Very cool. Nice.
I hate to interrupt one more time. Can I ask one music video question?
Cool. Definitely.
So great music video work, but there's one music video, at least on your site, to me that rings a little different than a lot of the other ones, and it's one of my favorite of all time, the Bon Iver Naeem video. And obviously AG Rojas is incredible, and I just love to hear like your experience working on that, just the imagery of like this life-giving rock, the mother and child, and it's beautiful, and it's really, and I love the music too, and so I'd love to hear just like, how was that for you and working on that kind of project?
Yeah, that was beautiful, and that's the kind of project, you know, where really like the you know, where everything kind of somehow where you know, we had a little bit of magic. Like we had that, there was this moment, I love this story, totally so good. The moment when the rocks first part and they see the, you know, and then we're in this really industrial part of LA and there's like nothing there. It's really pretty, and it was such a hot day, and it was pretty devastating. And then just as that opens up, there's like two bees just flying in there, you know. And so and that, for example, it's just a tiny little detail, but to me it just makes the whole shot. I mean, you probably don't really notice it ever, but I feel it, that it really makes that, it really, you know, amplifies that moment, you know. Yeah. I mean, AG is great, you know. He's a really amazing director and artist as well, you know. So the idea is beautiful. I mean, what else, you know? That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful idea. It's easy. You can't go wrong, you know?
It seemed like a perfect blend of just like AG being such a thoughtful artist and Bon Iver being a thoughtful musician. Like, how can the video not be? Yeah, it's beautiful. I really love that one.
Yeah. And it's also, yeah. And then, yeah, it's beautiful. And then we shot that in 16, which was nice. And so that's what gives it that weird little texture. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Of course.
Very cool. Well, yeah, I mean, I know you shoot tomorrow. I know a lot of people are busy. January seems like it's kind of a rocket right now in terms of projects and everything going super fast. Yeah, maybe just kind of maybe parting advice just for, the group as a whole, kind of young 20s. I mean, you've said a lot of really great things, and I love talking about the work, but also, you know, just for me, even personally, I know the importance of like building and working on your life outside of the DP and lighting and composition elements of what we do. So yeah, anything else that you would kind of say and kind of just give as like advice to this group as they continue to find their way?
I mean, honestly, we just, you know, it doesn't change. It's like whatever we're doing, you guys are doing now, that's the way it is. You know. that's the way it's going to be, and
Yep.
just try to do it better every day, you know, and try to be, you know, and, you know, try to work with people that make you be a better version of yourself, you know, avoid people that make you be a not so good version of yourself. And I think really for me, it's always been about, you know, even if the project is not great, it's about the people. There has to be something, you know, there has to be something there, you know, and sometimes it is the money also, you know, but
Sure.
it is what it is, you know, that is what you do with it, you know. It's you just, I don't know, it's a juggling act, man, and it's almost like you just, you know, just have to have faith and do it with an open heart, and know that, you know, and if you feel it, you know it, you know, and just, I don't know, just go, you know, just do it. And, you know, I think it's a good path. I think it's a really good path to follow, you know, if it takes you to a lot of interesting places, man. It teaches you how to see the world with different eyes every time, you know. You meet a lot of really good people, and also it as a human being, as an artist, you know, you really developed in a very particular special way, you know, just you know, as a collaborator, and as a you know, and I don't know, I mean, for me, filmmaking is really, you know, and until we find the next thing, which is kind of brewing right now, you know, but it still is, you know, just the most beautiful way to you know, to tell stories and transport people, and, you know, into beautiful realities, or weird or different realities. Yeah,
it's awesome. Very cool. Awesome. Well, Alexis, thanks so much for your time. And yeah, good luck on the project and in this year. And yeah, we'll look forward to continue to watch what you put out.
Me too, man.
Awesome.
I'll see you soon, Carson. Yeah.
We'll hang soon. We'll get the kids together.
Yeah, we have to do that very, very soon.
For sure.
At least some coffee.